Amidst a chilling game of nuclear brinkmanship, U.S. nuclear submarines prowl near Russian waters as Trump's peace envoy Steve Witkoff heads to Moscow, bearing not just diplomacy but also an ultimatum. From submarine deployments to sanctions deadlines, from Putin's defiant missile plans to Zelensky's ceasefire hopes, the world watches. Is this a masterstroke for peace or a march towards chaos? In a new era of madman diplomacy where billionaires broker wars and silent subs speak volumes, the Ukraine conflict teeters between a breakthrough and disaster. I'm Halal Hamalawi. Welcome to In Depth. President Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum to Russia to agree to a peace deal or face new U.S. sanctions, demonstrating a direct and forceful approach to de-escalation. His dispatch of envoy Steve Witkoff to Moscow signals a concrete effort to mediate a settlement. However, the Kremlin's response remains measured, with spokesman Dmitry Peskov not ruling out a meeting but refraining from a direct commitment to the proposed ultimatum. This cautious stance, coupled with President Putin's comments on inflated expectations, suggests a reluctance to bow to external pressure and a desire to control the narrative and pace off any potential negotiations. The on-the-ground reality further complicates these diplomatic overtures, with Russian forces gaining territory and Ukraine facing delays in military aid. The power dynamics favor Moscow. This tactical advantage makes it unlikely that Russia will halt hostilities immediately, underscoring the gap between diplomatic ultimatums and the military realities shaping the conflict's trajectory. The U.S. envoy lands in Moscow as Trump's deadline looms. Sanctions, submarines, and hypersonic missiles escalate the stakes. This is not just diplomacy, it's brinkmanship in the nuclear age.
This week, billionaire real estate mogul turned diplomat steps onto the world's most dangerous stage. Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's special envoy, lands in Moscow, just days before the U.S. president's self-imposed Friday deadline for peace in Ukraine. Why Witkoff? Because Trump doesn't trust diplomats. He trusts deal-makers. And in Trump's playbook, unpredictability is the strategy, a revival of the madman theory. By threatening secondary sanctions on China, India, and others buying Russian oil, he's not just pressuring Moscow, he's destabilizing global energy markets. But Putin isn't blinking. Russia's foreign ministry welcomed Witkoff with staged warmth. Yet on the battlefield, relentless drone strikes have killed over thousands of Ukrainian civilians. And last Friday, Putin unveiled a new hypersonic Russian missile, claiming it's invincible and capable of delivering conventional strikes with nuclear-level devastation. As diplomacy dances, shadows move beneath the waves. In a chilling signal, Trump ordered 2 U.S. nuclear-armed submarines into the North Atlantic, confirmed by U.S. officials. It's the most aggressive naval deployment since the Cuban Missile Crisis, a silent, submerged ultimatum. But is Moscow negotiating or stalling? Putin says he's open to talks with Zelensky, while accelerating missile production. The world watches, not just as bystanders, but as targets. For the global south, Trump's sanctions could backfire. India and China keep buying discounted Russian oil, risking U.S. penalties. Turkey walks a tightrope. And in Europe, fear grows. If America walks away, Ukraine falls. Witkoff carries no treaties, no troops, no guarantees. Just a message, peace or punishment. But in the nuclear age, brinkmanship is not strength, it's suicide. We're not just watching a war, We are witnessing the rebirth of great power confrontation, where billionaires broker peace and submarines speak louder than diplomats.
Providing more analysis about the most recent updates concerning the Russia-Ukraine war and the upcoming visit of Steve Witkoff to Moscow, joining us from Kiev, Mr. Oleksiy Melnik, former Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister, and Mr. Ivanievs, advisor at Ukraine National Center. Welcome to In-Depth to you, gentlemen. I would start with you, Mr. Melnik. Mr. Melnik, amid Trump's madman diplomacy with nuclear submarines deployed and Witkoff en route to Moscow, does Kiev see this as a genuine peace push or a dangerous gamble that undermines Ukraine's sovereignty?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I think both. There is a bigger hope for Trump's changes in his approach toward the resolution of the Russian-Ukrainian war, because finally he has accepted the obvious reality that Putin was not interested in any peace negotiation, and now it seems like finally he is trying to make right steps. But at the same time, we are not very happy with the level of escalation, and especially because of the place that Ukraine has almost in the epicenter of this great power competition.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Ivan, Putin offers a meeting with Zelensky while accelerating missile production and striking Ukrainian cities. How can diplomacy hold weight when Russia wages war on the battlefield and in propaganda?
Hello. Greetings to Mr. Alexei and greetings to all audience. Actually, we understand that Russia, of course, like to say about big success at the battlefield. But if you look at the dynamic of Russian success, yes, it's not small. They have some dynamic, but I could not say that they are serious. At least Putin's statement that he planned to control whole territories that Russia included into their constitution, it's Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions. As the magazine Economist said, they needed for that several years. At least till 2029, they can succeed in that according to current dynamic. And the dynamic of last several months demonstrates the same. So that's why now I think that Mr. Witkoff visit, it's a attempt of Donald Trump to demonstrate that the U.S. still have some expectation on diplomacy, that they not put dot on this question. But everyone understands that the chance for diplomacy is not so high. So this visit hardly to give something new, and of course we will see what will be today and tomorrow, but after that it should be end of this new Donald Trump ultimatum. First of all, ultimatum not even to Russia, but to China and to India. So if those countries made a statement that they will not buy Russian oil, for Russia it will be a very big problem, and hardly Russia understand that for now. Thank you, Hala.
Mr. Melnik, the U.S. now speaks of peace while arming Ukraine less transparently. Does Trump's shift signal strategic abandonment, especially as NATO pledges bulk purchases of American arms without new direct aid packages?
Well, actually, we are in a much better situation nowadays than it used to be 6 months ago, or even a few weeks ago. Finally, the U.S. administration and Donald Trump personally, as I said, accepted the reality that the previous approach to trying to please Mr. Putin with very kind offers of like accepting Crimea annexation or offering him economic deals failed, and the second part of this to be a deal with Russia that stop providing Ukraine with weapons also is over. Now, the United States of America at least agreed the sale of weapons through NATO and by making Europeans pay for the American weapons. And also there are some not significant, but still some of the American programs to support Ukraine militarily. So it's not what he promised. I mean, Donald Trump promised us open gates for American weapons to Ukraine in case if Putin rejects his offer. But still, it's not as bad as it used to be.
Mr. Ivan, now Putin's ceasefire conditions demand the recognition of occupied territories. Can any deal brokered by Witkoff uphold Ukraine's territorial integrity?
You know how actually Russia, when they talk about peace, they mean capitulation of Ukraine. And the proposition of Russia, they quite possible. Tomorrow they show to Steve Witkoff, as President Putin said several days before, that they didn't change since 2024. And that means recognition of territories that Russia annexed from Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine is not ready for that. You know, several days ago, it was a bigger forum in Azerbaijan, and the president of Azerbaijan said a great phrase: never agree with the territories annexed from your country. You should always remember that this territory should be returned. That's why Ukraine not agree with any propositions that will be based on recognition of an annexation of whole territories since 2014. I mean, not only Zaporizhia and Kherson and some part of Donetsk and Lugansk, I mean, even Crimea Peninsula. So that is not condition for Ukraine. Thank you, Hala.
Okay. Mr. Melnik, as the battlefield reports confirm that Russian advances are taking place in Dniprovetsk, despite drone barrages from 4 fronts, can Ukraine sustain defense without a clear, unified Western strategy anchored in more than just symbolic diplomacy?
I wouldn't even take a risk making predictions. And I also don't trust to forecast even produced by very authoritative Western media or experts, because back in February 2022, Ukraine was given 72 hours, 3 days, couple of weeks. But as we already witnessed, it's more than 3 years, and Ukraine is still resisting despite the numerical, technological advantage on the Russian side. Recently, Russia declared its occupation of the relatively big Ukrainian city. I mean, relatively because it's a Chasiv Yar, so 12,000 people used to live there before the Russian occupation. But it took Russia 2 years just to occupy one relatively small town. So with this speed of advance, which is still significant, about 500 square kilometers during last months. But with this speed of advance, it will take years for Russia even to reach the administrative border of illegally declared annexed territories of Donetsk region. So situation is unpredictable. It's very tough, but it's not fatal for Ukraine with the current state of supply of the Western weapon and domestic production in Ukraine.
Okay. Mr. Ivan, now Witkoff's mission bypasses traditional diplomatic channels. Does this elevation of backroom deals over institutional diplomacy erode trust in any potential agreement reached under Trump's terms?
You know how, of course, Trump demonstrates undermining of the old order and previous approaches in solving problems. I agree with the statement before our air that Donald Trump don't believe to diplomats. That's why he sent his business partner, because he wants to make a deals. But When he feel the fact that he could not have this deal, that this deal will not be realized, he can seriously change his mind. And we see that even in changing of Trump rhetoric in address of Russia only for July. At the beginning of July of previous months, it was telephone talk between Donald Trump and President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. At the end of July, we start hear about these two submarines directed to Russia and the demonstration that, unlike previous administration, that is ignored, absolutely ignored what President Putin, deputy in the Council of National Security, Dmitry Medvedev said. The current administration will not do that. They are ready to respond. Furthermore, they can so go to escalation. That is the main difference. That they directly say to Russia that we so have nuclear weapon, we so have enough weapons. So that's why now, of course, Donald Trump, he is not ready to say that it's a dot on achievements in the deal area, but it's a very narrow chance for this deal. He still believes in it, but not seriously believes. That's why even Donald Trump said that, okay, Witkov probably will be in Moscow, but they needed his visit, but not we need this visit, actually. Thank you, Hala.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ivanievs, for your special insights and for your analysis. Thank you so much. Mr. Melnik, now, as Russia accelerates hypersonic missile deployments, does Kiev perceive Trump's submarine show of force as credible deterrence?
Actually, we have very realistic expectations about possible American support. And the recent decision of the Russian government to withdraw from the treaty of so-called short and medium range missiles presents more risks for the European countries than for Ukraine. Because actually it's aimed, or the message at least is aimed at the Western governments, Western capitals, because the medium, small and medium range ballistic missiles are designed, especially if it's nuclear designed, are designed to hit targets at the distance that actually does not allow time for the other side to react. But in addition to it, increases the level of unprovoked unexpected escalation because of the shorter range and time needed to react. So nothing new for Ukraine, but I think it is a very strong message to the United States of America and its partners.
Okay, so Mr. Melnik, now as Russia accelerates the hypersonic oceanic missile deployments, does Kiev perceive Trump's submarine show as credible deterrence, or is it more than that, in your opinion?
Actually, don't be so afraid of this Oreshnik, because there are some doubts that there are the true story behind the Oreshnik. And as you know that Russia has already used Oreshnik against the Ukrainian city of Dnipro last year, at the end of the last year. It doesn't produce bigger damage than other Russian missiles like Iskander or Kinzhal. So this is more the instrument of the Russian propaganda, of the Russian sabotage, nuclear sabotage, but not the real instrument of the war. As I said, it's more addressed to the European capitals than to Ukraine.
Okay, but I want to know also from you, Mr. Melnik, if Witkov's back channel bypasses NATO and the European Union, does this fracture Western unity and leave Ukraine vulnerable to a U.S.-Russia crave-up?
I don't think that Mr. Witkov has the real mission this time. well, we all know the answer very soon because it was said that he would visit Moscow for the end of, till the end of this week. But his previous mission has failed because he was going to make a deal with the is Mr. Dmitriev on the Russian side, the Russian mediator, and based on the business interests. So this idea has failed. And now maybe it's the last attempt of Trump to send a message to Vladimir Putin, or this is it will be just an attempt to say that, okay, I used the last chance to make a deal with Putin. Now my hands are free to do what I deem necessary to do, like new policy of escalation. So that's how I see the real purpose of the mission of Mr. Trump's envoy to Russia this time.
And Mr. Melnik, now after relentless drone attacks from 4 fronts killed civilians, how much weight can Ukraine place on a ceasefire offer that lacks verification mechanisms?
Actually, it was a joint Ukrainian and European proposal a few months ago to declare air and navy ceasefire. And it was realistic from a point of view of monitoring and enforcing, because it's easy to monitor by technical means from satellites, from aircraft, and it was easy to implement and more realistic. As we know, Kremlin refused at that time because it was in a bigger Russian interest to continue airstrikes on Ukrainian territory, terrorizing Ukrainian population, destroying Ukrainian infrastructure. And a couple of days ago, we heard the same proposal made by Lukashenko sitting next, Belarusian president sitting next to Vladimir Putin. So it seems that Putin is trying to use these last few days before the end of the Trump's deadline to offer not something tangible, but to involve Ukraine and the United States into the endless discussion and probably to avoid the worst case scenario in case if Donald Trump decides to impose real sanctions on and second tariffs against Russia.
Okay. Well, joining us now from Moscow, Mr. Amar Khan, the Russian affairs expert. Welcome to Qnews, Mr. Khan. Now, with Putin publicly welcoming talks, yet reinforcing nuclear posture in Belarus and issuing veiled atomic warnings, is Moscow genuinely open to negotiations, or is this merely tactical theater to fracture Western unity?
Greetings to you in the beginning. With respect to the Russian stance is clear, and I do not think that Putin to send in nuclear threats, but we may say, but it's only statements and came by the former Russian president. The opening of political negotiations is just to minimize casualty and to pursue political solution with respect to the Ukrainian crisis, and not to freeze it as Trump wants, as if it is in a very specific time truce. Russia wants us to go back to the rooted reasons of such a conflict, and hence the calculus or the equation launches, which is the basic of the crisis, the security coalition and the fears on the national borders with the Russian. But we see today that We've seen a confused American stance. From one hand, Trump is pressuring Zelensky to pursue or to move forward to negotiation, and on the other hand, threaten Russia by sanction and a timetable for solving the end of the conflict. But we've never seen, up till now, the program that Trump is relying on in solving the Ukrainian crisis. And I think today's escalation is the outline among or amid the American pressures by the political elite internally and from the European Union from one hand and from the NATO's and from the other hand. And so Istanbul trajectory has been drilled, and we are waiting for the US envoy visit, through which we might come up to positive messages, and we should build on in the upcoming time.
Mr. Melnik, now, does Zelensky's willingness to meet Putin while under US diplomatic pressure risk appearing desperate, thus emboldening for further Russian demands?
Unfortunately, I didn't hear what
I will repeat my question to you, sir. I was asking you, does Zelensky's willingness to meet Putin while under US diplomatic pressure risk appearing desperate, thus emboldening further Russian demands?
Well, I just was going to say that I didn't hear what the other Russian guest said to you. But going back to your question, the President Zelensky actually has declared many times his readiness to meet with Vladimir Putin. But as Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, that something like the meeting should be prepared. And the expectation and understanding what kind of meeting or what kind of conversation could take place nowadays between leaders is very clear in Ukraine, at least. We know that every time when Vladimir Putin says that he is going to meet with or talk with Vladimir Zelensky, he means that he is going to talk to Zelensky, because he's not going to discuss any compromise. So he has declared many times, and last time, 2 days ago, then the Russian position is still unchanged. So nothing less than or short of Ukraine's surrender is accepted for Russia, and Russia is going to fight for years and ages until it destroys Ukraine. But this is not the good basis for the bilateral meeting. So that's why we have expectation and hope that the international community, especially the major international players, will finally say their word.
Mr. Khan, Trump's envoy Witkoff carries an ultimatum backed by threats of secondary sanctions. How will Russia recalibrate its economic alliances with China and India if the global energy markets face new US disruption?
With respect to the threats to China and India, I do not think that today China and India will be submitted to the US decisions. We are before in a new geopolitical equation through which Trump is trying to put in himself as the dominant and administrating the world. But the talks or the economics are about to be exceeded to the America. This is by the submission that matters should be to whom they are dealing with. I think it's that equation that was ended in a few time ago, but Trump's stance is a part of his political maneuvers to impose a new reality, but not not for the US today to impose such secondary sanctions, and we should not forget that through such exercises, the economic system will be crippled globally if Trump fulfill what he vows. But I think they are coming in amongst the propaganda context through which they can, or he can, shows to manage the conflict and pressure into Moscow from the other hand.
Yes, I get your point, and I'd like to thank our guests today, Mr. Alexei Melnik, former Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Amar Khan, Russian affairs expert. Thank you both for your valuable insights in this valuable discussion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as submarines prowl and envoys negotiate, the world holds its breath. Diplomacy dances on a knife's edge, where peace and peril share the same stage. This concludes today's episode of In Depth. My name is Hannah Al-Hamalawi. I'd like to thank you so much for being with us. Stay tuned. The top story is coming up next.